Welcome to the Sound Bearier, Northeast State's official podcast. My name is Tom Wilson. I'm with the Department of Community Relations. And today we're very pleased to welcome our friend, speech communications professor, Dr. Rick Merritt, to join us on the Sound Bearier. Dr. Merritt is a longtime faculty member, well-respected faculty member here at Northeast State. He's also a faculty advisor to the Toastmasters Club, and as well as the Northeast State Student Debate Team. Dr. Merritt, sir, welcome to the Sound Bearier. Great to see you.
Well, thank you for the welcome. I don't know if I live up to everything you just said, but I'll try.
I know you do. I know you do. Well, let's start off if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and how you came to be here at Northeast State.
Well, it took kind of the round route. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I didn't come straight down from Pennsylvania. I took a circular route after I got my degree at Penn State, did the obligatory college. My stepmother says you're going to college. Didn't know, I did major in communication, but didn't know what I wanted to do, and ended up with a bundle of student loans and no way to pay them off, so joined the Air Force. And in the Air Force, I was a broadcaster, which is a skill I learned actually in high school, and was able to put that into about 9 years. And then when I was at the Air Force Academy, I said, I'm going to get out and try my hand at teaching. I got my master's degree, had taught at various schools. So I said, let me give it a shot, and was working at Colorado Christian, Pikes Peak Community College. And then my wife said, why don't you work on your doctorate? Did that. And after that, she said, get a job. So she worked in the financial industry, and I worked there for about three years in New Jersey, and that was right across from New York. And the time 2001 happened while we were there, and we kind of got a firsthand view of that. And we said, let's consider moving. And I looked up for schools and found Northeast State was hiring, so I applied, and by good graces, I was able to do the interview and get hired. And I've been here since 2004 and love it.
Wow, outstanding, interesting, and certainly an indirect path to get here, but we're glad you're here. Now, obviously, we're here in a very trying year, 2020, for everyone in America, all across the world. What was your first thought as a professor and in class when word came down back in March that we were switching out, we were stopping everything and going online?
Well, I was. First thought was, man, I can do this, because I had taught fully online for the University Incarnate Word for about 10 years, and that was worldwide. So I've got this, and I got a lot of stuff on D2L, and it was just a matter of changing some things around to really try to get students engaged online in that online environment. And that's the difficulty. So tried to come up with some weekly announcements that I put together, asked little trivia questions about those announcements just to make sure they're watching them, just to try to engage them. Had a group project where they got engaged with each other online. So I felt pretty confident about being set for that. My one concern was, were the students ready? And of all of the courses that I was teaching, 7 courses, I only had one person drop due to the fact we went all online.
Wow, that's a very impressive ratio. So did the kids just kind of cotton to going online, or did they seem to make the adjustment fairly easly?
I think so. And I think, again, in my classes, I had discussions online. I had some things already online that got them there. All my assignments are online, and because I tell them I don't want paper, because paper goes to my office to die. So please don't give it to me, because it will be buried somewhere, and I'll find it, 3 semesters later and go, oh, that's where that went. So don't do that. And they caught on pretty quickly and said, okay, yeah, we'll not do that. So I think they had that routine down. It was just not being able to see each other and to see me and on a consistent basis that threw them for a little bit of a loop. In one of my classes, I changed my banner on D2L because they tend to hyperventilate a little bit. So I changed it to don't panic in the banner. So I don't know if it helped or not, but I had fun doing it.
Excellent. Don't panic. Good advice for us all, I think, right now. Now, in going online, and I know online class and online teaching has been a method of teaching for a while, of course, but did it affect how you taught at all going online, even in spring and even over the summer? Did it affect how you approached teaching at all?
Not really. It made me think about how can I even better engage students online. And I had the opportunity to go to a Zoom conference that Pellissippi State hosted about online teaching. And I got some intriguing ideas about how I can actually get more engagement, and looking ahead, thinking about doing that in the fall. My Zoom office hours will also be, what I'm calling kind of a room where they'll come in and I'll ask them questions and try to get some interactivity. It's going to be voluntary at this point, just because I want to try it out, see how that works, and to get that together and see how people respond, and we'll go from there.
What let me ask you this first. Being in speech communication and as you said, being a broadcaster, how is Zoom, let's start with Zoom. How has Zoom and teleconferencing and web communication, how has it changed, if at all, speech communication? Do we talk to each other differently through video than person to person?
We definitely do, and as I mentioned at the conference I went to, and our Toastmasters clubs, they are all on Zoom now, and so that is one advantage, and that's what I'm planning on doing with our Toast Education. I'm putting in a plug, Toast Education Club, that we're going to have our meetings on Tuesdays at 3:00, but we're going to do it by Zoom. So I'm going to have that available for them. And I've been on several Zoom meetings, and they work really very well. So it's different. Obviously, it's not like being there, but we still have a good time and get an opportunity to get up and speak. And for some, that may be a little, less, of an obstacle. Instead of standing in front of a group of people, you see some faces on the screen. It may make it easier. I don't know.
Yeah, is public speaking still one of the biggest fears of people? I've heard that, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's still up in one or two. Jerry Seinfeld did a great bit about the public speaking being a fear that is higher than death, and there have been some studies that showed that. He said, I really think it's ironic that people would rather be in the box than the one talking about them. So.
Yeah, Jerry, great comedian, a great line.
Yeah.
Now, what? From the mask perspective, and I don't get too academic about this, but people wearing masks, how does that affect speech? And do you notice that affecting speech communication, just even in social distancing? Is that?
Yes, and I think it does, and I think that's again a nice thing about Zoom. And one of the reasons that I decided to actually do all of my classes online was because of that. That's one of the factors, because when you are looking at someone and you're watching them speak, you're looking for that facial expressions, and a lot of that happens. Some happens with the eyes. You can do it with the eyes, but a lot happens below with the entire face. And with mask, that's going to be very difficult to ascertain, and you're going to miss a lot. Plus, if students tend to be soft-spoken, that mask could be also an impediment to being able to effectively communicate. So I put some thought into that and said, yeah, I think that I would rather have students record their videos, put them on Usia with a place that they're comfortable, and I'll be able to evaluate the entire presentation.
Let's talk a little bit about the Toast Education. I think you started that when you got here, if I'm correct. And let's just talk about a little bit about what Toast Education does and what it hopes to do for students.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to Dr. Ruth Livingston. She was a former Toastmaster and kind of said, hey, we're going to be doing this. So she was probably the impetus for getting it started. But yes, I was one of the first ones on board with that. But she deserves the credit for bringing it up and getting it going. And I think for students that, most of the students that I see that have been in a toast education or debate, I see them, of course, get to know them a bit better and following their careers or where they're going on Facebook. They're all doing very well, and they have that skill of being able to get up in front of people and confidently present themselves. So I do think it is definitely an advantage. Employers are looking for that. If you're going to be able to effectively communicate, you've got to do that to get a job and an interview. So all of those things really fit together, and get a little bit disheartened when passing you see someone that says, anyone can teach communication, or I don't know why I need to take this class. I'll never use it again. Well, except for every day, you won't use it.
True. Very true. Now, is the Northeast, I know we've had the Northeast State debate team. They've participated for many years in several competitions, locally and regionally. Are debate competitions moving on to Zoom also? Is there a debate competition happening virtually now?
I actually reached out to my colleagues at Pellissippi and Walter State, and I know Walter State's tournaments in the beginning of October, and they've already canceled that. And I asked them, are you considering Zoom? And they're not at this point. There are, and that's kind of one of the things I want to experiment with in Zoom with some of my classes to see, is it feasible? And I think it is, but it's going to take a little bit of a challenge and a change. I think if you can host a conference online, you probably can effectively host a debate tournament online. It's going to a lot of shuffling and things like that. But at this point, none of the places that we have gone, like Walter State and Pellissippi State. Pellissippi was canceled last year. Of course, our own tournament, we have ETSU, and they had to cancel theirs. So we'll just have to wait and see where we are. And I know that most of those schools have, and including ours, have no travel policies. So that puts a little bit of a hitch in it, but no Zoom debates as of yet. Depends on how long everything goes on, whether we'll make that switch.
Do you remember your first speech class in college, and how did you kind of react to that?
When I came into college, I kind of was one of the weird ones. I kind of was into communication because of my high school experience. And my first speech class, Mr. James Elder was the teacher, and it was great fun. I enjoyed it a lot. We did an activity that I still use in class today. Not today because we're not in class today, but I still use in class. And it is called a game called Win as Much as You Can. And I've played it in college in that classroom. And also, I think we had it in one of my graduate programs, and I played it with, when I was in the financial world, they did it in the financial world. And that one was really interesting because it's based on two things, X and Y. You have a card, X and Y. You hold up an X and everybody else holds up an X. Everybody loses a point. Everybody holds up Ys. Everybody wins a point. Any combination, then it switches. The Ys lose points and the X gain points. So when you got that idea, win as much as you can, you're looking at, how can we make it work? And every third round or so, you send people out into the hallway so they can negotiate. And they'll negotiate, and then they'll come back, and pretty much about 90% of the time or more, somebody's going to violate what they agreed on to gain more points.
Interesting.
And so in the next three, after the next 3 rounds, you go out again. And I remember, and this was probably just shortly after I got here, was teaching a class, and there were a couple that was engaged, and they were both the representatives for their respective teams. And I went out to the hall to see how things were going, and they said, "Dr. Merritt, are you trying to break us up?" And I'm going, no. Don't take it so seriously, please. That's not what this is intended. But it did show that, and then that you really can get into it, because I attached a few bonus points to it. It's nothing that's going to make that much of a difference, but they really, really get that competitive mode. And then when I say, well, if everybody had picked Y all the way through, your groups all together would have had 100 points. And that's really the goal. And it's not working separately. It's working together. How much, win as much as you can, and then tell them this as a team, as a group, the 4 teams together rather than individually.
Wow, yeah, I bet that generated a lot of discussion in class. What are some resources that are being made? I guess if there's a silver lining in these clouds we find ourselves over us right now, what are some resources that have come out of being online that you foresee helping students down the road? As far as just communicating with each other generally, be it in person or online, uh, are some resources, some inventive ideas coming out of all this mess that you think can be very beneficial down the road?
Well, I think that there are obviously now even something that we didn't necessarily think about just within our own families. Families nowadays tend to get dispersed, and staying in touch with one another seem to have been difficult. And I think that's one advantage that we have from a family aspect is we can, set up a Zoom meeting with our families and talk. And we've been doing that with my wife's family, my in-laws, and able to see our in-laws in Tucson. They just got a new puppy. My sister-in-law drove from Tucson to somewhere in New Mexico to pick up this puppy, and her husband was a little bit chagrined about it. They just retired, but last I saw, the dog was sitting on his lap. So I think he's made friends and he's all right with that. But those types of things, we wouldn't see them before this. We wouldn't think about that because it would be a phone call. Yeah, I'll see you in December, and so I think that's an advantage. Interviews. I think one thing when you're interviewing people, we now have opened up. We've opened up the reach for individuals, so we can really interview that person that's in New Mexico for a position because it's a Zoom call. It's not they have to get here. And like when I interviewed here, I drove down from New Jersey and got a place to stay, and that was all very, very worth it. But I would have done probably a Zoom call now. So I think that actually opens up opportunities for people to get employment where perhaps before it would have been just, well, I really can't afford to go there, so I'm not going to apply for that particular position. So I really think that's a huge, huge advantage for both companies and prospective employees to have that ability to communicate in person. And then, of course, you do all of your interviews that way, and then everybody's on an equal playing field with that. So that's a positive. That's something that I'd really see continuing to happen even after the pandemic is over, because that will give us a lot more, here at Northeast State, along with, of course, everyone else, opportunities to find talent that it didn't really may have not had an opportunity to do that before.
Right. Absolutely. Have kind of the faculty banded together? I know they just did a yeoman's job finishing out spring. Everybody and all our faculty did incredible work in making it happen. Is there kind of a stronger sense of unity among, I guess, your department and that division, just based on what we've gone through?
Yeah, in behavioral and social sciences, we're all very close, and we've all really have a great deal of respect for each other, get along extremely well. And I think that we reached out to one another. Hey, I've got a question about this. Can you help me? And doing that online. And I would be remiss if I didn't give a big shout out to Mike Collins to help us keep that all together, because he really did an excellent job for all of the college to keep us online. And I know for a fact he went out and worked with students individually and just went out of his way to make it successful. So we wouldn't have been as successful as we could have been without him. But as far as the division, we all really pulled together and said, okay, what can you do? I talked to adjunct faculty on the phone and worked through some issues that they may have had. So it's all, we all are one big team. So I think that if anything, it made us, even though we're at a distance, it made us closer.
Oh, nice sentiment. Yeah, absolutely. I thought that might be the way it went for everybody. Now, just away from just the classroom, what are some of your hobbies and interests? What are things you like to do when not teaching?
If I have the opportunity, I like to get out and hike. I haven't had a lot of opportunity to do that lately, but definitely like to go out and visit some of Tennessee, North Carolina, and some of the hot spots to hike in the area, and just get out and, without technology, and enjoy, the creation that God's given us. And that's, I think it's important to do that. And I'm an avid reader. I love, usually engage with a couple of books, and also while I'm working out in the morning, I've got a Audible book going. So just trying to, do those kinds of things, and just, pretty much, getting outdoors whenever I can. And when I can't, I'm content with a nice, good book.
What book are you reading right now? Or what two books are you reading right now?
Well, I just finished a book called Warriors of the Storm. It's a ninth in the series, the Last Kingdom series by Bernard Cornwell. And my friends got me the first book for my birthday a few years ago. And I'm kind of saying, well, yeah, you cost me a lot of money with that gift, but that's okay. Enjoying the books. And so I'm reading that, and I just finished that. And picked up a book called 1984. I may have heard of it, and I've read it before, but I'm rereading it. And as I'm looking through that, I'm going, there's some things that are startlingly familiar in a way, but it's a good book. I think it's a book that folks should all pick up and read that. And I'm listening to Arthur Conan Doyle's stories. Just finished a Letter in Scarlet. And
oh yes, yes.
And so that's kind of what I enjoy reading, and some to get away from it all.
Definitely. Why do you think students? What do you think any student should not be afraid? We're circling back a little bit, but what do you think a student should not be afraid of public speaking? And like you said earlier, speaking we do and use this every single day. So even if maybe you're a pre-engineering major, maybe you're in pre-health professions, you're still going to have to speak and communicate. Why should people not be afraid of speaking, and why do they need good speech communication?
Well, and I wouldn't take it all off the table, not be afraid, because once you get too comfortable, then you get a little lazy. But there should be some level of anxiety, but it should be low. And one of the things I have my students do first week of class is I give them note cards, or if online, I ask them to do it online and send me pictures of them. So I'll give them a few bonus points for doing that. I have them write out the words, "I am a well-prepared and confident public speaker," and put those somewhere where you will see them, and repeat them to yourself. Now, as you write them, you're thinking that is not true. But the more you read it, the more you tell yourself that, the more you get rid of the negative self-talk. And I have them fill out a form that says, give me a paragraph of how you feel about public speaking. And I'll have, it's horrible, I hate it, all of these things. And when I respond back to them, I say, okay, you're going to eliminate the words hate. You're definitely going to eliminate the word you're going to die, because that's not going to happen. I'll throw up. And so far, knock wood there, no student in all the years I've been teaching public speaking, no student has thrown up. Had one that was relatively close, but he made it to the lavatory on time. So that was a good thing. But the idea is we really talk ourselves out of not only public speaking, but we take that same attitude toward math. We take that science, or whatever it is that we really don't believe we can do. We tell ourselves we can't do it. And then when we don't do it, we say, yep, I knew it. But we've really talked ourselves into it instead of into being positive about it. So I put that in many, many years ago, and it has worked. And I've had students on discussion boards or in class say, thank you for doing that, because that really helped me to say, okay, this is what's causing me. I'm causing the block. It's not the fact that, it's not the people that are sitting in the seats there.
Got it. Excellent. We have come to the part of the show we like to call the 3-question challenge. It's 3 either or questions, rapid fire. Nothing too crazy. But are you ready to take the 3-question challenge?
I am ready.
All right. Question number 1: baseball or basketball?
Baseball.
Baseball.
Yeah, baseball. Yep. Grew up with it. Love it. Been to a World Series game. Been to an All-Star game. I love baseball.
Awesome. All right. Question number 2: chocolate or caramel?
Chocolate, dark chocolate preferably, but enjoy having that. So.
Okay. Yeah, chocolate seems to be the majority on that one from what I've heard so far. Question number 3: Falcon 9 or Mars rover?
Mars rover. I think I would go with that. I just think it's really cool. We have a device up on Mars that we can check in on and see what's happening, and that the search for life on Mars, we're not going to find little green people, but we're going to find maybe little green molecules that say, yes, there was water, there was life here at one point in time, which I think that kind of investigation is pretty cool.
Sweet. Yeah, I agree. We had someone, I cannot for the life of me remember her name, who was from Kingsport, who gave a talk here about 5 or 6 years ago, who works for NASA on the Mars rover project. And she is actually responsible for directing the camera and taking the data that the Mars rover sent back and translated it into photos. So she was one of the first people who ever lived on Earth to see these views, which was pretty amazing, I thought.
That is, yeah.
Kind of an extraordinary thing. Anyway, well, we have come to the end of our time. And Dr. Merritt, we thank you very, very much for joining us today here on the Sound Bearier. It was great to talk to you and learn a little bit about you and about speech communication and what we can expect here, I guess, coming up in the fall. But thank you for joining us today very much. Great to see you, and we wish you all the best of luck for the fall.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. I do appreciate it.
And we also, of course, want to thank the fine folks at our Entertainment Technology Department here in Northeast State for making this happen, for their sound engineering work. Of course, thank our Department of Community Relations and Marketing for all their work they do here on the Sound Bearier. Please visit our website, northeaststate.edu, northeaststate.edu, northeaststate.edu. Learn more about Northeast State. We just might have something out here for you. We might be just what you're looking for. So until next time, we're signing off from the Sound Bearier. Go Bears and stay safe out there.